Welcome to America. I'm Jorge Ramos. Critics call her controversial, outrageous, a performance artist. And Coulter has said things that even most conservative members of the Republican Party don't agree with. However, her books are bestsellers, and people listen to what she has to say. Yes, we have disagreed in the past, and I am sure that we will disagree now. But I'm convinced that we have to talk with those who don't want immigration reform in order to find a long-term solution. And now she is here to talk about her new book, Adios, America. Thanks, Dan, for being here. You've asked for an honest debate, and let's have it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start. Your numbers are wrong. You are saying on page, right here, on page 72, that the real number of undocumented immigrants is 30 million.
Yes.
It isn't.
Yes, I think you're wrong, as I described. I mean, the number we keep hearing is 11 million, 11 million, and 11 million. That's so weird. It's been 11 million for a decade.
Well, but
I'm still explaining what
the Census Bureau, the Department of...
But as I explained in the book, they're all using the census figures. If the census figures are wrong, then everybody's numbers are wrong. And I'm sorry, it defies common sense that in the past decade, not one more illegal alien has come. And in fact, I cite the work, first of all, of two people advising people about their money, Bear Stearns analysts, and they looked at something other than the census reports, which relies on people who have broken the law to be here telling the truth in government surveys. They said, no, instead we're going to look at remissions of money back to Mexico, for example. That is money people send here. School enrollments in illegal alien hotspots, housing permits in illegal alien hotspots, and back in 2006, they said it was 20 million. Plus, you have two Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalists who spend a year investigating for Time magazine, which you are one of the most influential people of.
That's what they say.
You better believe the investigative reporters for Time magazine and Vanity Fair. And in 2006, they said there's been another 3 million a year.
But the truth
that
is
adds up to a minimum of 30 million.
No, but the Census
plus the fact that it defies common sense.
It says 11.3 according to Pew Research Center. Department of Homeland Security.
And they're all relying on census reports.
So you're saying 30 million, but it's what you think.
Well, okay,
the reality is completely.
people to read the book and make their own conclusion, because
the
I'm citing things
different.
other than the exact same people using the exact same
you
census data. And by the way, who cares? Let's move on.
Okay, so
I don't care if they're 11
you're saying 30,
million.
I said 11. Okay.
There is absolutely no question.
What would you do with
minimum of 30?
What would you do with them? On page 245, you said your solution: the entire immigration bureaucracy has to be shut down.
Yes.
That's no solution.
Oh, yes, it is.
Of course it's not solution.
Well, that's not the only solution. Also, end the anchor baby scam and put a triple-layer fence up.
So
but
you want
to
leave the situation exactly the same?
No, the point is there's no point in even discussing what to do with people already illegally here unless we turn off the flow. The first thing when a tub is overflowing, you turn off the water. Then you decide, are we going to use a mop? Are we going to use rags? Are we going to use a blow dryer?
What do you do with those who are here? What do you do with those who are here?
It's absolutely tendentious to discuss it until
Congress
puts a fence up.
We're talking about 11 million people or 30 million people, according to you.
You can't have citizenship based on a game of tag. I'm trying to preserve an endangered culture, the American culture, and it is being overwhelmed by 30 million illegal and legal immigrants being dumped on this country from peasant cultures. We have taken more Nigerians than we take in people from Britain for the past 30 years. Do most Americans know that?
So you only want Europeans here?
71%.
You only want Europeans coming here?
I want nobody coming here for the next decade. I want a total moratorium until those.
That's unrealistic.
That's not an answer to say it's unrealistic. You're asking me what this country needs. This culture is being overwhelmed. It is the most successful culture in world history. It is the
what
best
would you do
for
with
women.
those who are here?
It is for children. Now we were bringing in cultures where child rape is the norm, where honor killings are the norm.
That is, you cannot say that the majority of immigrants.
There's no concept of litter. Our national parks are being overrun.
You cannot say that the majority of immigrants are criminals or terrorists.
Flew to get to. They came to this country for a reason. There aren't millions of Americans fleeing to Mexico.
Let me give you an idea.
The country they flew to isn't going to exist.
What's
we stop this right now.
What's wrong with legalizing the majority of those who are here?
Because we did it before. We know what happens.
No. And then, according to CBO, they would contribute $700 billion in the first 10 years.
Yeah, and they take
$1.4 trillion in 20 years. They would create 6 million jobs.
These are absolute fanciful figures. The idea that if you
No. The Congressional Budget Office
of welfare-receiving, assistance-needing peasants on the country, that is going to help the American economy. It's preposterous. They get more in government assistance than they are ever in
That
their
is not true. Let me give you a
going
number,
to
and
pay.
that's what I think you're wrong with the numbers.
Well, you can cite fanciful numbers, but this is the whole point of writing this book.
Who get
people
food
are lying
stamps?
about immigration. The American people are being lied to. The idea that you can dump in people accepting more government welfare than they're paying
Let me give you just a number. That's why your numbers are wrong. The numbers are wrong.
No, you're just citing other fanciful
Who get food
numbers.
stamps? Mostly white people. Only 10.3% of Hispanics get them.
No immigrants should be getting any government assistance. Why would any country take people who immediately go on government assistance? It's madness. We want people who bring our average up, who don't bring the average down. American government should be concerned with the American people, and by the way, that includes immigrants at this point. Immigrants who came in last year and the year before that, they came to this country.
You're not telling me what are you going to do with them. You're not telling me what are you going to do with them.
I'm refusing to discuss it until we have a double-layer fence on the border.
Why can you discuss
like the
that?
Great Wall of China.
We got to do something with that, right?
Baby scam, and knock this nonsense off with the refugee and asylum cases, which are 100% scams.
You've said that Americans should fear immigrants more than ISIS.
Yes.
Most immigrants are not terrorists, not criminals.
I have a little tip.
No one is biologically predisposed
if you
to
don't
commit
want
a
to be
crime.
killed by ISIS, don't go to Syria. If you don't want to be killed by a Mexican, there's nothing I can tell you. Very easy to avoid being killed by ISIS. Don't fly to Syria.
Are you really saying that we're talking about 40 million immigrants who live in this country?
I thought you were just disputing that.
No, 40 million immigrants who live, I'm not talking about undocumented immigrants. Overall immigrants legally here and those who are not here.
40 million with illegals.
So do you think that people are biologically predisposed to commit crimes?
No, I think there are cultures that are obviously deficient. And if they weren't deficient, you wouldn't be sitting in America interviewing me. I'd be sitting in Mexico. You fled that culture because there are a lot of problems with that culture. Hopefully it can be changed, but we can share our culture with other nations without bringing all of their people here. When you bring the people here, you bring those cultures here. That includes honor killings. It includes uncles raping their nieces. It includes dumping litter all over.
I read the whole book.
It includes not paying your taxes. It includes paying bribes to government officials. That isn't our culture. You can see the successful cultures in the world. They have been studied ad infinitum. America is it is the best in the world, and we are about to lose it, and everyone who lives here is going to lose that. And the people who are going to suffer the most are the weak ones. It's the women, it's the children, it's the animals, it's the plants. No country
read the whole book.
has ever had the sort of respect for women that Anglo-America does, and that is going out the door.
I read the whole book, and I think you're afraid of 2044. In 2044, non-Hispanic whites will become a minority, and you don't want that.
Well, I do think the whole country will be changed when it becomes a
but what's wrong with diversity?
White country.
What's wrong?
It's not diversity.
So you don't want people like me? No, you don't want people like me here.
No, it's not diversity. It's Mexican. One third of all immigrants come from one country. That is not diversity.
Your family came from Ireland, right?
No,
It's a European.
Mostly settlers, yeah, not immigrants.
All right. So do you want in the late 1800s and in the early 1900s there were signs, Nina signs that said no Irish need apply.
No, that's nonsense. It turns
so you want us to go back to those days?
No, that isn't true. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But the point is, before Teddy Kennedy's 1965 Immigration Act, there was more diversity in immigration. Diversity should mean we take an equal number from all the countries in the world. I think that would be a stupid policy, but that would at least be diversity. Still talking. That's not what we're doing now. We are taking 30% of all legal immigrants from Mexico, 60% of all illegal immigrants from Mexico. Instead of taking 5% or more from 7 different countries, which was the case before 1965,
mostly European countries that you
we're
want.
taking them all from Mexico. Well, okay, but
so your problem is with Mexicans, but not with Europeans.
No, you said what's the matter with diversity. I'm telling you it's not diversity. I'm just getting our facts straight. And no, I didn't want to live in Mexico.
Facts. So
I don't want to live in Ireland. I don't want to live in Scotland. I wanted to live in America. Why don't liberals? Why do you think that the Mexicans who fled here want to recreate Mexico here? No, it helps your power because your media desirability goes up a lot. But you're not speaking for the immigrants who came here from Mexico. They left Mexico. They came to
it's an economic situation. It's simply an economic situation. They come here because there are thousands of American companies who hire them, and because there are millions of Americans, including you, who benefit from their work.
It's more than economic because you have something like 2.4 trillion people in the world living on like $2 a year. They'd all like to come here. Mexico happens to be within walking distance. So you're the one who's discriminating against the poor Bangladeshis who would love to come here, but they can't walk across the border. Why should we discriminate against them?
So let me just say this at the end.
It's not humanitarian. It is not diversity. It is just changing our culture without checking with the American people into Mexico.
Let me just finish with this. So you think there are way too many immigrants in this country?
It's not only that there are way too many, we're getting immigrants who are immediately going on welfare, who are committing crime. No immigrants should be committing crime.
The majority of immigrants are not terrorists or criminals.
The number should be zero. Why would you invite? Look, we can't do anything about our own underclass. We can't do anything about native criminals. We can do something about people we're inviting into our country.
So let me just give you this number. So you're concerned about immigrants coming here. The number of foreign-born population, the percentage foreign-born population, 1900s it was 13.6%. In 1910, 14.7%. Right now, 13%. In other words, the percentage of the foreign-born population in this country hasn't changed. So you're crying wolf.
No,
there's no problem.
You didn't listen to my last answer. It isn't just the fact of immigration. It's the immigrants we're getting. It is also a fact that the immigrants before 1970 were more likely to graduate.
So you're concerned about Latino immigrants.
Immigrants were more likely to graduate from college, were more likely to make more money, were less likely to be on welfare, were more likely to own their own homes. Post-1970, upside down.
That is not true. Second generation Latinos
not true.
tend to get better jobs, better salaries, better salaries. They go to college. You have 4 million Latinos who have bachelor's degrees. This is 1.4 million Latinos who have PhDs or master's degrees.
Better than what? Better than their parents, not better than the native population.
Better than their parents. That's second generation Latinos.
Their parents
who cares,
We're utter peasants. Doing better than their parents isn't better than the native population.
Second generation Latinos are doing much better. Than
is their
parents. Of course.
No, we're not in an international humanitarian process here. American government should be protecting the American people, not helping out the people of the world. This isn't an international charity mission.
Well, that's the tradition in this country, and this is a country that was formed by immigrants, including your family and my family. We all came from another country.
I didn't come from another country.
Well, your family did.
No, it didn't.
Of course it did.
No, it didn't.
Of course it did.
There was no, it did not. My family came from America because there was no America until they came.
Okay, before your parents, they came from somewhere.
If they taught American history,
Let's do one
apparently they don't. The first people here back in the 1600s were not immigrants. They were settlers. They came to a society or a continent
that had
no country. They created this country. The Dutch, mostly the British, created America.
So they
were not immigrants.
So
nor were the first 17 presidents.
Your family came from another country, so did mine.
No, they weren't. My relatives are American.
All right, let's take a break.
You are a cultural imperialist.
Thank you so much. And we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back taking questions from our audience. That's next. Thank you. We've heard Ann Coulter's view on immigration in America. Let me just ask you before the audience. Which Republican candidate is closer to your philosophy on immigration?
Well, none have it exactly, but they haven't read my book yet.
They know you. They know how you think.
What's interesting now is Scott Walker is the first one of the announced candidates to come out and say he wants to protect American jobs and American livelihoods. And it's as if, until this moment, all the Republican candidates have agreed, okay, none of us will take steroids. Now that he's said it, that screws all of the rest of them. And I mean, I think he'll be the candidate unless my love.
So you will be
Romney
supporting
jumps
him?
Back in. Yeah, oh yeah, and I like Romney, and I mean, obviously none of them have my position, but again, they haven't read the book yet. I think I'll persuade them that we need an immediate immigration moratorium and end the anchor baby nonsense. But Romney had the self-deportation position, which was as better than any other Republican.
He got 27% of the Hispanic vote and lost.
And Ronald Reagan won the smallest percentage of the minority vote and won the largest electoral landslide in history. So Republicans don't listen to Jorge Ramos on how to win. Listen to Ann Coulter. It's in the second to last chapter.
How about Jeff Bush, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz? Do you like them?
Well, no, obviously not Rubio or Jeb Bush, nor do other Republicans. I understand the Democrats and the media are quite fond of them. And as for Cruz, I mean, he's making some good noises now, but he said some terrible things about amnesty in the past, so no.
So those are my questions. Let's listen from the audience. Jose Machado, go ahead.
Welcome to the world I call Miami. It's beautiful and thriving. It happened in elementary school after reciting the Pledge of Allegiance that I realized that I was an American, that I was one of my classmates. Then later I discovered that I was actually undocumented. At what point did you realize that you were an American?
I've always been an American. It's like, when did I realize I'm a girl? When did I realize I'm from Connecticut? When did I realize I have 2 older brothers? It's just been a part of my sense. But I wanted to check, are you still undocumented, as you say? Because I want to get Sheriff Joe on the line.
No, I'm not. But I realized that I was a boy when my private part was different than my sister's. So there's things that we see that this makes us different. So you didn't really answer the question.
I mean, if you're proud of being an American, what would
you
you think of the fact, as I have in my book, and I assume you guys haven't read my book yet, but I hope you will. What would you think of the fact that Carter judges started presiding over citizenship ceremonies conducted in Spanish?
Well, I speak both languages, so I'm good. I don't know about you.
So you don't care that
no, I mean,
American
I can
citizenship? Okay.
But
I'm definitely calling
the reality is that my
Joe.
mom was deported, and because she was deported, I ended up getting papers. So this is the messed up system that we have.
Okay, well, I'm thinking that we really want citizens who are speaking English and love the country with such an emotional intensity described by Justice Brandeis that you would react in horror at the fact that citizenship ceremonies are being conducted in foreign languages.
Thank you very much.
Next question, Sloan, go ahead.
Hello, Anne. Thank you for taking my question. I'd just like to butter you up for a second and say that no matter what kind of political party you're affiliated with, I think we can all agree that you have really great hair.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to my question. Okay, so you've stated that a woman should have a right to an abortion because the unborn child is the product of someone's illegal actions. And I wholeheartedly agree.
Wait, what?
I've read that quote online.
You know what?
Multiple
I've
times.
never said that, and we're really talking about the book today.
Okay, well, I'm getting to the book
But
question.
I've never said that. You're reading some crazy webpage.
I was reading your webpage, which is a crazy
But
webpage.
I said a woman has a right to an abortion because it's the product of an illegal act. I promise you, I've never said that.
I mean, you can give me your email address afterwards. I can send it to you. But do you
So
want to hear the?
what's your
I'm pretty
question?
sure I know.
What's your
My question is, I do agree that women should have the right to an
No,
abortion.
I've never said that.
Okay, if it's anyway.
You're reading a joke webpage.
Using that
So I'm already
logic.
suspicious.
So do you think that children of undocumented immigrants should be denied in-state tuition because of someone else's illegal actions?
I gather you're saying that because, oh, what about the children? It's not. Well, look, anybody any parent breaking the law is going to be a problem for the child. Those Enron executives, their children have suffered horribly. Should we just say, oh no, we can't put the Enron executives in prison. Those BP officials, if they have to pay those huge fines, their children will suffer, and it's not the children's fault. I'm sorry, when people break the law, there are consequences for the kids. It is whenever parents break the law. Oh well.
Okay, well,
Gaby Pacheco, next question.
Slightly taller. So my first question is, can I give you a hug?
I wouldn't today. I'm recovering from the worst flu I've ever had.
It's okay. I'll take your germs. This undocumented immigrant who has lived in this nation for almost 22 years wants to, as a sign of my humanity and yours, recognize you and say, can I give you a hug?
No, let's get on with the question.
Okay, thank you. So, and Joe Arpaio gave me a hug, by the way. There is freedom of speech, and then there's also hate speech. And I wholeheartedly believe in our First Amendment right. But many of the things you say on TV, on the radio, in your books, not only do they incite fear, they also incite hate. And so I wanted to ask you if you feel you're abusing your First Amendment rights, and do you think legitimately that what you are saying is right?
Well, 2 points. One is you don't understand the Constitution if you say there's free speech, and then on the other hand, there's hate speech.
No, I know that under the law and the Constitution,
answering the question,
they're
and then
both
you'll
the
step
same,
away
but
and we'll take the next one.
Hate speech, and you don't have the right.
And thank you all for coming
put
here
it out.
today. She's about to finish her speech. No, there is speech. There's not speech and hate speech. And judging by the last question, apparently you people can't tell the difference in what I've actually said and some crazy parody site, because I don't know what you're thinking is hate speech. I don't engage in hate speech. I engage in speech. And yes, it's part of the long Anglo-Saxon tradition of thinking that free speech and the contest of ideas, the truth will emerge. It goes back to John Stuart Mill.
Well, I think the people that are standing here will agree with me.
Attributes of a place like
what,
America
some of the things that
will
you've been saying and continue to say and spewing hate speech.
Next question, Ray Lastre.
You don't have a tradition of John Stuart Mill.
Last question. Go ahead, Ray.
Hi, Ann. How are you? I don't necessarily disagree with your views. I am a conservative, so I'm proud of that. You know, Ann, there's a lot of candidates, and here in Florida, we have Senator Marco Rubio, for example. I like the senator. I was upset with him on his view on the whole immigration debacle. But thinking forward, could you see yourself supporting him in a general election? Have we not have another candidate? And why the dislike? I think that he's a great candidate, and we have, as a Cuban American, I think I'm so proud of having Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, people of Cuban blood, being able to get there,
Well, I'm going to keep bringing the questions back to my book. And again, I say this is not, glad you're a conservative, happy to have you here, hope you vote Republican, but this blood thing, not really an American Anglo-Saxon tradition. This is a problem, and that's why the Democrats are insistent on dumping all of these very different cultures on America, because they can get people to vote on the basis of blood. That is not how Anglo-Saxons vote.
Yeah, that's true.
Not at all. No, and we have third worlders voting in tribal ways. If we had gotten 71% of the Hispanic vote, Mitt Romney still would have lost. If he had gotten about 5% more of the white vote, he would have won. So Republicans better wake up and, for the first time in, I don't know, my lifetime, appeal to white Americans for votes. No one says to a white person who votes Democrat, you voted against your race. But you do get that with all of the ethnic groups coming in. Once Democrats discovered the joys of racial politics, it was over.
I think like the word Hispanic and Latino in itself, it serves like to divide instead of unite us as Americans. So thank you so much for being here, Ann.
And so don't you think that if Republican candidates follow what you think, they're going to lose the Hispanic vote and they'll lose the White House again?
No, they will win as I just said, and I describe again for idiot Republicans who believe that, please just read the very short second to last chapter. I wrote it after going to a dinner party with a bunch of rich Republicans, and I realized they knew absolutely nothing. I turned my book in, I came home, and in a moment of rage wrote up, rich people are busy, they're making money. I'm not. I'm busy reading Nexus reports, so I went through the actual results of, for example, Proposition 187, when California had about the same demographics as America does now. I went through Ronald Reagan, who got the smallest percentage of the minority vote of any Republican between LBJ and Obama, and that was the biggest electoral landslide in history. The way for Republicans to win is to follow the Ronald Reagan model, and rich people don't have to read obsessively Nexus, but they do have to hang on my every word if they're not going to do that.
One last question. You asked for that on Twitter. Tell me anything new that is not known generally, that it's in your book.
Well, obviously you brought one up. 30 million illegals, not 11.
It's 11. It's 11 now, not 30 million.
More Nigerians than English since the 1970 immigration law. Oh, that the people who passed the 1965 immigration law, Teddy Kennedy, the rest of the Democrats, they swore up and down it would not change the ethnic composition of this country. This has been the most dramatic, historic ethnic change to any nation in world history. And this is without lying to the American people and without even consulting the American people on it, which is why I'm particularly enraged at the idea that I can see every night on MSNBC enthusiasm about, oh, the browning of America, the browning of America. But if I say, I don't like what you've done, oh, that's racist.
No, but don't you think it's better that this is a stronger, don't you think this is a stronger nation because it's more diverse, more tolerant?
It's not more diverse, it's more Mexican.
I think it's more diverse, much more diverse.
No, it
in 2044, minorities will be the majority in this.
But it isn't diverse.
I think diversity is just fantastic.
No, you
I
don't.
think diversity is
you want it to be
beautiful.
all Mexican.
No. I think we're just arguing for more diversity and more tolerance in this country.
We have taken in 1/4 of the entire Mexican population. At what point will we have taken in enough, in your view?
I think that with a legal system, the
entire Mexican population.
No, I think with a legal system, we wouldn't need, and we wouldn't be having hundreds of people dying crossing the border.
That isn't an answer to the question. 1/4 of the Mexican population. How much
because
more do we have
it's simply
take?
It's an economic situation.
When
as long as you have people here who need immigrants and workers, and as long as you have workers needing a job, they're going to be coming here. It's an economic situation.
They need workers who are subsidized by the middle class.
Adios, America. Thank you so much for coming.
Book. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to our studio audience. Adios, America will be available in hardcover June 1st. And be sure to check our hashtag #AnsAmerica. More on America after the break.
I've never seen, this is the first chapter of my book, describing how there is just a total censorship of what 70% of Americans would agree with. You cannot hear my side of the immigration debate. You can't hear it on Fox News. You can't hear it on MSNBC. You can't hear it on ABC, NBC, CBS, the New York Times, because it is the elites against the middle class and working class Americans. You can hear both sides of a debate on abortion. You can even hear fake quotes from me on abortion. You can hear both sides of the debate on global warming, on the Iraq War, on vaccination of children. You can't hear both sides of this debate. So of course it sounds shocking the first time you've heard it, because you've never heard it before.
2 more questions? No, you already asked a question. You want to say?
Yeah. And my name is Lisa Sacco. I was born in this country, and I'm very proud to be an American. The reason that my family is here is that my grandfather was a POW who fought with Italy, and then my grandmother married him and settled in this country. My mother came in 1964 as a Cuban immigrant, and the reason my question is going to be about the fact, and I agree with this point, why do immigrants come to this country and then start to receive welfare benefits? My family, who worked very hard to come here during the freedom flights, my grandfather never received anything from this country, never went on welfare, lived in a very tiny bedroom in New Jersey and worked very hard, as did my Italian family, who worked very hard and never received benefits. And our store that my grandfather started on my Italian side has been in business 65 years in Elizabeth. So I do agree with your point, and I think—
I can answer that.
What population
as I said,
has—
pre-1970 immigrants do better than the natives, as any sane immigration policy would require. I mean, in a way, I don't blame the immigrants, I blame the politicians. This is very clear from my book. This is a bad, corrupt policy, and it is being pushed by the Democrats because they want poor people who will be forever in need of government assistance. They can employ lots of government workers, so it helps the Democrats that way. It helps the elites and people in need of a lot of cheap labor who refuse to mechanize, farmers, and of course, Wall Street bankers. They all have nannies, they have chefs, they have gardeners. Their lives are so much better. So to help some tiny little elite, we are bringing in poorer people who will need welfare, but they'll block vote for the Democrats. The question is, why are Republicans going along with this? Because of their short-term interests. It'll help them in the next 5 years, and it'll help the GOP lobbyists. And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of rich Republicans, and I have been struggling mightily to get this book into their hands because I don't think they hate America the way, for example, La Raza and the ACLU do. I think they're just being led astray by idiot consultants, and like these people I had dinner with that I wrote the second to last chapter for. Rich people can be stupid when they all hear the same thing over and over and over again, and they're hearing the same thing, and just as you haven't heard the other side, neither have they. And if they would just read my book, I would pay them.
Another valid point that you made was about the fact that people need to speak English. So, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. As a real estate broker, I think it's a shame that the exam is available in Spanish as well.
You want to ask your question?
Chapter 1 of my book, where I have the most beautiful quote from Louis Brandeis about what it takes to become an American, and he just, I mean, he throws English. Well, of course, you have to speak English, but he goes
but most
through
of
the
us do one.
emotional
Most of us
attachment, and well, the emotional attachment is not there, and to have your interests allied with the other American
But the numbers
people,
are there. I mean,
there seems to be some crosstalk going on.
yes, it's just that we don't agree. Anyway, but go ahead.
Hello, Anne. I'm Gabriel, and I was born in Honduras. Actually, I have a citizen brother, and from the side of my dad. Thank God my dad became a citizen after 5 years being here the last month. Now, I am a U.S. resident, and in 3 years, I will gladly become a U.S. citizen. Dealing with immigration, don't you think this will be more as a discrimination or racism? And basically, the United States should be a country that shows the world that racist is a bad thing for everybody.
It's not about race, it's about culture.
United States, believe it or not, it's one of the countries besides one of the biggest country. United States is the country that has dealt more with racism. And that's part of the discrimination. And me, as a Latin Hispanic, we feel bad because of that. We support a lot of the United States economy. And basically, United States economy, it's because of Latin people.
Okay, so.
Okay, the answer. Now I'm talking. No, that's
I can continue.
That's preposterous. It's not about race. It's about culture and poverty and
culture is
again, I was talking, man.
Of races.
I'm just going to say you got to read my book. This is very clearly dealt with, and the answer is you're not black. So drop the racism crap.
I'm Latin.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you.
Culture.
Thanks so much.